this was completely left out of the movie, and like, I get it. And there's just something about this first meeting between Harry and Lupin that I can't really put my finger on. Even though his friends are gone, he has this piece of them that is here. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to Muggles and Mocha. Well, it is technically Friday when I'm recording this, but I hope you're having a good day wherever you are and whatever you have going on. I hope that this little time talking about Harry Potter is something that can make your day a tiny bit better. So I'm glad you're here, and today we're going to be discussing Chapter 8 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. If this is your first time at Muggles and Mocha, we're going through all of the Harry Potter books one chapter at a time. This book club is connected to my editing website, MadisonKdarby.com, and I post an article every week as well, which you can find this week's article in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on social media, and all of my handles, I guess, are located in the description box as well. I hope you liked last week's article. It was all about Lupin and Snape, thinking about their backgrounds and the way that they behave in the previous chapter, which was the Boggart and the Wardrobe. If you're interested in that video or that article, I'll plug that right here. Or here, I always get this wrong. And today, we're just gonna keep trucking through this book because we are now almost halfway. Look, I dog ear my books. I guess that's bad. Go ahead and grab your coffee. I have mine today in a mug that I really like. I know I say that every week, but y'all, look at this one. I got it on vacation recently, and it says, "These are the days," playing off of the phrase, "those were the days," how we're always like looking into the past. And I just thought it was really nice to, you know, take charge of the here and now. So these are the days. Before we get started, I realized that there's a question I have never asked you people before, and I'm interested in knowing the answer. Who is your favorite Harry Potter character? Actually, now that I think about this, I might do a poll on my social media and get your responses, and then maybe tell what the highest rated character was among you lovely people. Actually, now that I think about it, I did a ranking list about a year ago. Actually, I think it was right before we started Muggles and Mocha. But yeah, I made this ranking list. And actually, I'm gonna see if I can pull it up here really quick. Okay, I used it with a website that is called Tier Maker. And it was really popular on Facebook about a year ago. People were like posting their rankings of things because we had just gotten into the lockdown and we were just all trying to find something to do, I think. Y'all, this list is questionable. I'm gonna have to redo this list because I'm already disagreeing with myself. Like, I put Draco Malfoy's mom below Malfoy. I mean, I gotta admit, it was a hard list because there were a lot of characters, so that did make it pretty difficult. I also forgot how much I disliked Peter Pettigrew. He is under Voldemort and on the same level as Dolores Umbridge, so I'm gonna put the one that I did from a year ago in this week's article. So click on the link below and you can see my rankings with the caveat of I disagree with myself on a couple of things now. I'm gonna have to do another one. Maybe I'll post the current one in this week's article, redo it, and then have the next one for next time. We'll see about that. But yeah, Tier Maker, go make your own list and feel free to post it in the comments. So let's get into today's chapter. We're covering Chapter 8, Flight of the Fat Lady. And this chapter, it wasn't huge, but like we covered some ground. This is one of those chapters where I feel like we're just kind of like speeding through the seasons. Like we're already at Halloween. The chapter starts by picking back up with Lupin, just talking about how everyone loves him and loves his class, except for the Slytherins, of course. And my goodness, Rowling, the further I'm going through this series this time around and like trying to be open-minded about a lot of things, she just doesn't do Slytherin a lot of favors. They are made out to be pretty bad. And something that I find interesting is, you know, we've talked about this before, but when you start the Harry Potter series, it does read as if it's meant for younger people. I mean, these are kids' books. But as you go on through the books, especially ending with the 7th, it's almost like the books grew with us and they covered more mature topics in different ways. But one thing where Harry's or the narrator's viewpoint didn't seem to change as far as maturing and viewing things in a different way is the Slytherin house. I feel like the Slytherins and the way we look at them should have matured over time. Like, we're even able to view Malfoy with at least a little bit of sympathy, but then when it comes to the whole of Slytherin house, like, none of them fight in the Battle of Hogwarts. Like, we view them as such a collective bad, which I feel like is still in the little kid mindset of like, here's the bad guys, they're always, you know, someone that we view in a negative light. So yeah, it is her fault that we view Slytherins the way we do. I'm just gonna say it. So the kids are getting on with their classes, and the book just talks about potions, how terrible divination is, and how care of magical creatures has gotten really boring because Hagrid is just teaching them about flobberworms. Poor Hagrid. I just feel like Hagrid has a really bad book as far as what he experiences here. And that's on the tail end of him getting arrested in Azkaban. So yeah, I'm just ready for things to look up for Hagrid. We also get back into Quidditch with the best pep talk from Oliver Wood. I don't think I've gotten to talk about this too much, but I just really love Oliver Wood's character. He is funny. The older I get, the funnier he becomes to me. I just think his reactions are hilarious. How he's always just so focused on Quidditch. Like, you could stereotype him as just like a jock, but I think that she brings a lot of comedy into the character of Wood. And this speech that he gives is also a great way to introduce us to the Gryffindor Quidditch team, because we get all of their names and positions just conveniently there. We set up for the coming year and the hopes of Gryffindor winning the Quidditch Cup. And guys, the Quidditch Cup, this was completely left out of the movie, and like, I get it. Honestly, like, I get that the sport would be a thing that would need to be cut, especially in the face of like important things that happen in this book. But I just forgot how exciting this was. Like, I remember them winning and just that it was like really cool. And like, I've literally forgotten. Like, I can't remember all this stuff that happens, but I'm excited to read about it again because they win this year for Oliver Wood. And they beat Cedric and Cho Chang, right? Like, I can't remember which one they play in the Quidditch Cup. I think it's Cedric. I think they play Ravenclaw to get into the finals, and then they play Cedric in the Quidditch Cup. That's my guess. It's still satisfying. In this chapter, we also have the first Hogsmeade trip, which of course, poor Harry has been dreading. We've already talked about how he's asking everyone and their mom to sign his permission slip, which is just really sad. But before they leave, Crookshanks actually attacks Scabbers. And you know, we've already had some tension among Ron and Hermione about Crookshanks and Scabbers, like when she first bought the cat. But I think this is the true beginning of the fight that Ron and Hermione are going to be having throughout this book. Honestly, I'm not looking forward to it because I remember just getting really frustrated at Ron. I'll be very honest on my opinion of him when the time comes. I can't really remember how I felt. I just remember thinking that it was mostly his fault and that he was being mean. So we'll see how that goes. But I also remember them not talking a lot at all through this book. So, leading up to Hogsmeade, Harry asks McGonagall if she can sign his farm. My heart. She says no, does not sign it. That kind of makes me think of something. Are any of you guys into the Enneagram or any other personality tests? This is something I don't think I've ever shared. I love personality tests. I think that there's a lot of benefits that come from being introspective about yourself, and you know, knowing other people's personalities helps you understand them further, of course, which, you know, could help you see their perspective, help you grow closer to them. Anyway, I'm just a big proponent for those tests. I think that they're really cool. But when it comes to the Enneagram, I don't know much about the other personality types exactly. I do love reading about them, but I am a type 9, in case you were wondering. The reason I bring all of this up is that I think that McGonagall is just such a textbook Enneagram 1. Like I said, I don't know much about all those personalities, but from what I have read, She definitely seems like she would be a 1. Which is someone who's like big about justice, has a strong sense of morality, very wise, to the point. So because of that, Hermione and Ron go on to Hogsmeade without Harry on Halloween. I mean, they don't have much of a choice, and Harry is just stuck at Hogwarts. But this turns out to be a real blessing, in my opinion. Harry ends up wandering the corridors and then has his first meeting with Lupin. And there's just something about this first meeting between Harry and Lupin that I can't really put my finger on. It's just warm, and maybe it's because like it's one of the first times we see Harry like sitting down, besides Dumbledore. It's the first time like him bonding with a professor. Just immediately upon meeting them, Harry seems to immediately feel comfortable with Lupin, and even comfortable enough to tell him this insecurity that he's having. His questions about, why did Lupin stop him from fighting the Boggart? And I think that's just a really big deal that Harry brings that up to Lupin. He hasn't even been in his office for 5 minutes. Not that Harry is a secretive person per se. I don't think he's constantly hiding things, but sharing things also just isn't a natural thing for him to do. He's very careful about when he does that, and I mean, we saw it all last year with Parseltongue, which I know that was a bit more personal than this, but Harry's just not one to just be wearing his heart on his sleeve and spilling stuff to people. Even sometimes Ron and Hermione, he works up the courage to talk to them about things. And just what I'm trying to say is it's really special that he immediately feels drawn to Lupin enough to tell him, hey, it bothers me that you didn't let me fight the Boggart. Harry's just not usually that straightforward, especially at this young age. But anyway, let's get into their meeting. Lupin sees Harry into the hallway, and the book says that Lupin considers him for a moment before inviting him into his office. And, we've been looking at people's perspectives all through this chapter, so let's talk about Lupin's. I would just love to hear what he was thinking in this moment. What is he thinking as he is sitting here looking at the son of 2 of his best friends, Lily and James? He's gotten to have Harry in class a couple of times at this point. He met him on the train, so, this isn't like the first time he's seen Harry or anything. But, is he thinking about how much Harry looks like James here? Are there mannerisms that Harry has that reminds him of his friend? And just how precious it is that even though his friends are gone, he has this piece of them that is here. And, I think that besides the fact that Harry is lonely in this moment and that he's a student that's in Lupin's class, I think that the connection to James and Lily, of course, is something that leads Lupin to want to take this student under his wing and just learn more about him. Harry admits to him that his fear would have actually been the Dementors. And then Lupin says something really interesting. He says that this means that what Harry fears the most is fear itself. Which, when we first read this line, it does seem a bit cliche, but this is what my article is actually about this week. Like I've mentioned, ad nauseum probably at this point, that's located below. You can check that out. It's all about this statement that Lupin makes and, just what it really means for Harry and for Dementors, and just tying the conversation back to what Dementors do to a person and what Harry truly fears from them. And when I think of this statement from Lupin, that Harry fears fear among all things, and considering Dementors, when Harry undergoes his first Dementor attack, he doesn't realize that Dementors can suck out someone's soul. He doesn't know what these creatures are. And, the fear that he has of them doesn't technically only come from what they look like either, which is pretty scary. We know that what he is afraid of is the feeling that accompanied that attack, the incapacitating dread and fear that he experienced. So long story short, I think that Lupin's statement is more than a cliche and is true in this moment if you really consider what a Dementor does to a person. But like I said, you can read more about that in the article. I think it's funny that after Harry hears this from Lupin, he doesn't know what to say either. He's just like sipping his tea like, okay. Their conversation is interrupted by Snape, who arrives to give Lupin some of the Wolfsbane potion for his werewolfism. And honestly, like, I'm not going to get into this right now because we talked about Snape a lot last chapter. Like I said, you can check out that video. We brought up the conversation again of, is Snape redeemable? So you can listen to that or read about that there. But I cannot believe Snape tells everyone at the end that Lupin is a werewolf, especially when we learn, you know, like how the wizarding world views werewolves, how Lupin isn't able to get a job because of it. And he was even having trouble doing that when not everyone knew. And so to just be like publicly outed as a werewolf, like, we'll talk about it when the time comes. And this marks the end of Harry's first conversation that we get to see with Lupin. And even though it's a short scene, I really love it because it's the beginning of Harry and Lupin's relationship, which is a big deal through the rest of the book. Like, someday Lupin is going to make Harry the godfather of his son. And it's just really beautiful to look back on this moment where they're sitting in his office with this Grindylow and a tank and talking about Dementors, and Harry is just bonding with this father figure that he has in Lupin. And you know, in this meeting, they're already talking about real issues. Like, you can't say that their relationship is ever surface level. Like, they're not afraid to talk to each other about hard stuff. And, you know, we see that from the very beginning here. Moving on, Ron and Hermione return from Hogsmeade with candy, which doesn't make Harry feel too much better. But we got more exciting stuff going on because it's Halloween. And as we know, Halloween is always an exciting time. It has been for these past 3 books. Like, in the first one, we've got the troll in the dungeon. Then in the second book, we have the Death Day party, which is an adventure unto itself. And the attack of Mrs. Norris, which is the first attack of the heir of Slytherin. Now in this book, we have the flight of the Fat Lady and Sirius Black trying to get into Gryffindor Tower. So, Halloween, it is always an exciting, dangerous time. Not to get too dark, this is also the day that Harry's parents were attacked by Voldemort. It is the day they were killed, was on Halloween of 1981. Which, when I say that out loud, is very nerdy. Am I right about that? It's either 1982 or 1981. Let's look it up. They have a good Halloween feast. As you guys know, I love reading about those. We won't linger on it. Then at the end, we see that the Fat Lady has been attacked by Sirius Black. And here's our last paragraph. So in this scene, Dumbledore is talking to Peeves and asking where the Fat Lady is. So I'm gonna be Peeves at the beginning here, I guess. Ashamed, your headship, sir. Doesn't want to be seen. She's a horrible mess. Saw her running through the landscape up on the 4th floor, sir, dodging between the trees, crying something dreadful, he said happily. Poor thing, he added unconvincingly. Did she say who did it? Said Dumbledore quietly. Oh yes, Professor Head, said Peeves, with the air of one cradling a large bombshell in his arms. He got very angry when she wouldn't let him in, you see. Peeves flipped over and grinned at Dumbledore from between his own legs. Nasty temper he's got, that Sirius Black. Dun dun dun! So yeah, Sirius Black has attacked the dormitory. And man, like, this really shows the desperation and just mental state of Sirius at this point. Like, he rips up a portrait, one that he's used, you know, to get into Gryffindor Tower before. And, you know, like, not that portraits are alive, or are they? I don't know. Don't get me started on that. I don't know what I think about the portraits at Hogwarts, but either way, I would feel guilty about ripping one up. Of course, this all works together to reinforce to, you know, the people in the book and us at this point that he's after Harry. But as we know, he's actually after Peter Pettigrew, which, man, I'm loving how these clues work together. That is all we have for chapter 8. And next time we're going to have the grim defeat. I hope you have a great rest of the day and realize that these are the days. Seize the day, seize the moment. Watch out for our next video and article that will be coming soon. I'll see you then. Bye.